Morning, Natato. Welcome everybody to my, I think it's my sixth to last meeting.
Oh.
Yeah. Something like that. I think it's a bit of a countdown. I was asked this morning, so it wasn't already in the heat. Well, it actually was, but so now welcome everybody, welcome staff, and welcome to those elected members that could make it this morning. And welcome to our speakers, which is wonderful. Could we please go to page 3 of your agenda, councillors, so we go through the say the opening karakia.
Mate whakapono, mate tumanako, mate titiro, mate whakarongo, mate mahitahi, mate manawanui, mate aroha, ka taia e tātou.
Thank you, everybody. I was actually, it's not the press. I was hoping that this morning in the words of wisdom that I'd have particular journalists in the room. But that's okay. So my quote is, I have learnt the best way to end something is to let it starve. No response, no action, no altercations, just don't feed it. That's where true power lies. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. The apologies we have this morning are from Councillor Dow, Councillor Christensen, and Councillor Williams. My deputy mayor is missing. So I'd like to move those apologies for this morning. Second, Councillor Tamaki, all in favour? Awesome. Now nobody here to speak in the public forum. I don't believe there's any late agenda items. Are there any agenda items where councillors feel I should declare a conflict of interest? Thank you. Confirmation of minutes of the Ōtorohanga District Council dated 29th of April. Can I have a move and a second of those? Please move Councillor Tamaki, second Councillor Prendergast. Any matters arising from those minutes? Quickly moving on. Receipt of minutes of the Kawhia Community Board 8th of May. A move and a second for those. Move Councillor Jeffries. Second will do Councillor Tamaki again. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. My verbal report, not a lot. I think things are quietening down. I'm not sure whether it's because it's election year or whether I'm just not going to things anymore. No, just joking. I am going to everything, everyone who's listening to this live feed. So on the 30th to the 2nd of May, attended the All of Local Government meeting and Rural Provincial. The 6th, we had the start of the Rural Water Scheme meetings, and there was also on the 9th. We had elected members Hui on the 13th, Mayor's Task Force for Jobs meeting on the 16th. Waikato Waters done well governance meeting on the 19th, and we had a Zone 2 meeting in Te Aroha last Friday on the 23rd. And between that, there's just the, I suppose, the normal running of what my job is. So do I move from a second for those, please? 4 minutes. Move Councillor Prendergast, second Councillor Johnson. All in favour? No questions. We will move on to item 235, local water done well submissions hearing. Nadia, welcome. And that's page 33, councillors. Hi, Anne. Sorry, I hadn't looked up. Welcome. Nadia.
Tēnā koutou e te kumatua, me ngā kai konihira. So firstly, I'd like to acknowledge Mark Lewis, who's an apology today, and Anne McLeod, who is online, both contributors, maybe writers of this report. The report before you is to support the request for a verbal submission by Hia King on Council's consultation for the future of water services delivery under the government's local water done well reform. While the Water Services Preliminary Act allowed councils to undertake a shorter consultation period and forego hearings, Ōtorohanga District Council, yourselves, opted to adopt the normal 4-week consultation period and offer the opportunity for submitters to speak to their submission. As such, this process has 4 main steps. The consultation period, which we ran from 9 April to 26 May, the hearings, which we are undertaking today, the deliberations taking place on the 10th of June, which is your opportunity to discuss both the written and verbal submissions, and finally decision day, which is scheduled for 24 June. The hearings report contains data on the various methods of engagement Council undertook during that 4-week period, following the April meeting where Council endorsed the Waikato Water Done Well as its preferred option for delivery of water services. The website project page interaction data, which is in the report, indicates a reasonable level of interest and engagement. However, that translated into only 4 submissions, and all of those submissions are attached to this report. The purpose of today's hearing is to allow submitters who requested to speak to their submissions the opportunity to do so. And of the 4 submitters, only 1 has wished to exercise that right, Thea King. So as this is a formal process, Ms. King has been informed of the hearing process, her speaking time, and that you are as the hearings panel are here to listen. And you may choose to ask questions for clarification at the end of her speaking time. I'm happy to take any questions of the report before you invite Thea to the table.
So thanks, Nadia. Any questions, councillors, before we invite Thea up to the table? Yes, and sorry, welcome Rodney or Michelle and today's names, but that's fine. No questions. Thank you, Nadia.
The red light's on. Kia ora koutou, tēnā te mea kia koe. Mana, tō kōrero, tēnā te mea kia koe, tēnā te pai tuku ana te kaupapa whake. Tēnā koe. E te koromatua, next, tēnā koe, e te titwe tēpu, te kai kaunihira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā katoa. He miti ko te mea nui, he mea atu ki te kuini, te ariki nui, te ngā waipungu i te pō, e te kahuia ki haimare e ki a koutou. Tēnā koe, Roy, Jamie, nā whanaunga o hello. Tēnā kōrua. Tēnei hoki te mihi ki ngā tangata whenua, ngā uri whakatupu o tēnei rohe, me ngā tangata o te hāpori whānui, tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Thea King tōku ingoa, nōku nei ahau, i te tau tōku pāpā, ko Kāwhia te moana, ko Waikato te awa, ko Ngāti Mahuta ki te tai hauri, te hapu, no Taharo, no te Maika, me Kāwhia no hoki ia. E taha o tōku māma, ko Ngāti Maniapoto te iwi, ko Ngāti Uekaha, ko Ngāti Kanoa, ko Ngāti Kapatui anō hoki ngā hapu, ko Waipā te awa, no Ōtorohanga, no Waitomo ia. Tēnā tātou i raro i te maru o te kaupapa nui o te rā, ko te wai, o te oranga o te katoa. Kia ora koutou, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I share my whakapapa with you all today as it reminds us that water, whenua and identity are deeply connected. They are responsibility, not transactional matters. They are taonga, they endure. My whakapapa stretches from Kāwhia to Waitomo, to Ōtorohanga, over to Te Puiti, over towards Te Kaua. So I guess nōku nei ahau. So, you know, that whakapapa and my tupuna are very strongly connected. I also share my connections from Kāwhia through to Ōtorohanga to ground my support for option 1, the enhanced status quo, the ESQ
a model with genuine local oversight and partnership with mana whenua, keeping water governance local. This isn't just a preference, it's a position grounded in care for people, for whenua and for wai. This option reflects the unique needs of our Ōtorohanga district community and ensures that decisions remain close to the people and the whenua they affect. It remains in-house water services delivery. Firstly, the ESQ model respects and upholds the role of mana whenua as kaitiaki. Our district stretches from the Ōtorohanga district, Ōtorohanga, inland valleys and surrounds, and out to the west coast at Kāwhia. It is home to iwi and hapu with deep ancestral ties to the land and waters. Local governance allows us to work in true partnership, not just consultation, and honours our obligations under Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Second, this model allows us to embed tikanga Māori and mātauranga Māori in how we manage wai. Water is not just infrastructure, it is a living entity with Māori. That understanding must guide our decisions. Third, decisions made by people who live and work here, who understand the land, the history, and the aspirations of this rohe are more likely to be culturally responsive, sustainable, and effective. Water is not separate from who we are. Water is a taonga. It connects us to each other, to our whenua, our communities, and to future generations. I urge the Council to choose a model that honours that connection by keeping decisions local and grounded in tikanga, community voice, and true partnership that honours mana whenua, protects local governance, and ensures that decisions about our water remain in local hands. I also want to express my opposition to the CCO model, a regional body that risks diminishing local voice and accountability, weakening mana whenua partnerships, imposing a one-size-fits-all approach that doesn't suit smaller districts like ours. We already have strong local service delivery. We should be building on that, not handing it over to external entities. Finally, a quick summary on why I support option 1, the enhanced status quo. 1, it strengthens our ability to work directly with mana whenua, not just through consultation, but through real partnership. 2, it honours tikanga and kaitiakitanga, allowing for mātauranga Māori to be meaningfully integrated into local water governance. 3, it keeps decisions close to the people who know this land, who understand the needs of our communities, from Kāwhia all the way through to Ōtorohanga. It builds local capability without giving away our voice to a distant entity. And most importantly, it reflects Te Tiriti o Waitangi in practice, not just in policy. I urge the Council not to outsource or dilute that responsibility. A regional CCO might offer scale, but it risks disconnecting us from our values, from accountability, and from our Tiriti partnerships. We already have a strong foundation in the Ōtorohanga district. Let's build on that. Let's not lose what makes this place unique in the process. Somewhere along the way, perhaps we've forgotten that water is not just infrastructure, but a taonga. Forgotten that our decisions must reflect whakapapa, not just spreadsheets. Forgotten that true partnership with mana whenua is not optional. It's a responsibility under Tiriti o Waitangi and under tikanga. To close, I return to the essence of this kaupapa. Ko te wai te ora o ngā mea katoa. Water is the life force of all things. Let us treat it as such. Let us uphold te mana o te wai with decisions made by those rooted in this whenua for the well-being of generations to come. Let us do water well. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, ka mutu ki te kōrero koto. Ngā mihi nui ki a koutou. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou.
Well, thank you, Thea, and thank you both for coming in and being here and speaking to your submission. It's certainly, I've read it a couple of times now and taken it all in, and it's certainly thought-provoking, and you're right that water is a time that we need to share. So, yeah, real food for thought. So thank you. At this stage, there could be some questions from councillors. We won't be answering anything today. Deliberations are on the 10th of June. And we'll get back to you after that when we consider the other submissions as well. So I'll open to the floor for any questions, should there be any. That's when you've written a good submission. Hey, look, thank you both for coming in and thank you for speaking to your submission. It's very important that we get that, so appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Kia ora, your worship. So that concludes those that wanted to speak. As his worship has indicated, deliberations are on the 10th of December, and again, that final decision being on the 20th. Oh, December, not that far away. June. I'm looking forward to Christmas. 10th of June, and then your final decision is scheduled for the 24th of June, and after which we will follow up with all submitters through a written letter.
Thanks, Nadia. So we have a staff recommendation in front of us that Ōtorohanga District Council received the report, local water done well submission hearings, document number 821468, including all submissions received on council's consultation document, Korera Y, Let's Talk Water, prior to the closing date of 6 May 2025B. Thanks, submitter 4. Thank you. For the verbal submission on council's preferred option for delivery of water services within the district, and note that deliberation on submissions will be held on 10th of June 2025. I'd like to move that. Second, Councillor Hughes, all in favour? Against? Carried. Thanks, Nadia. Right, councillors, we'll move on to item 236, fees and charges, 2526 on page 45. Welcome, Graham.
Yeah, thanks, your worship. So this report is to adopt the fees and charges for the 25-26 financial year. The attached document is marked up, so you can see what the fees were for the previous year and what is proposed for the next financial year. I just draw your attention to the second part of the recommendation. The Kapia Community Board rescinded their previous resolution to recommend fees for the Kapia Community Hall. That is going to go back to the Kapia Community Board next week, and then there'll be a subsequent report to council to adopt that. So I'll open it to any questions, any I guess particular fees of interest. We'll have the relevant GMs that are here that can answer those. So thank you.
Thanks, Graham. Just give us a couple of minutes to scroll back through, see if there's any questions arising.
Yeah, I think these were previously workshopped, so I don't think there should be too many surprises there.
No questions, Councillor Jeffries. My apologies.
Thanks, Your Worship. Graham, just a couple of points of clarification, if I may. Under heading 5.6 financial, which is on page 47, I believe. I did notice that when I went through the proposed changes and the fees and charges, that a lot weren't changed from previous year. Some did go up by very small amounts, like $5 or $10, whatever it might be. When we get down into resource consent fees, there were some considerable increases in those. And so I just wondered if we could just get a little bit of an explanation, particularly around the resource consents, as to why they've gone up significantly. But I guess the question I had on 5.6 was do we, or have we ever considered linking the increases in fees and charges to say something like the CPI, or even, I mean, if you've got a rate increase of 10%, should fees and charges go up by a similar amount? I'm just asking the question. I'm not saying we should do it, but is those considerations ever been given?
Yes, we did consider that as part of the LTP. Did you want to talk to that, Brendan? Sorry.
Yeah, so I guess in terms of CPI increases for fees and charges, that might work for some fees and charges, but other fees and charges are set under different bits of legislation, so it might be possible. For example, building and resource consent fees, part of the regulation is it has to be reasonable cost, cost recovery, and not making it worse stuff. And so if our costs haven't gone up as much, then potentially there's an argument that you couldn't put the fees up as much. Others, like the amusement devices, for example, are set in legislation from 1920 something, I think, and haven't changed since. And so we can't actually change those. So it is a valid consideration. I guess as part of the next year, we could look at those fees that potentially could be CPI adjusted. I guess one of the issues you also run into is CPI can go down, not often, but do you adjust your fees down because CPI has gone down when we know the council's costs are going up? So it's which one of those two do you use as a basis?
If no,
One of them.
No, that's a good explanation. Thanks, Brendan. And I guess where I'm really coming from there is depending on the level of fees and charges, will have an impact, even if it's only slight, on rating requirements.
In most cases,
Yeah. So there was a sort of an offset here, but okay. So on page
Can I just, through you, Your Worship, add some of our adjustments to fees and charges are to keep in step with our neighbours as well, because we do have people that kind of live across many districts and work across many districts and are comparing us all the time.
Yep.
So it's really important for us to just be mindful. We don't have to necessarily copy, but just be mindful of what's going on in our neighbouring districts as well.
Yeah, no, thanks, Tanya. No, I was aware of that, so thanks. And just a general question on page 52, I think it is, under the Ōtorohanga Kāwhia water charges. You've gone from a standard domestic connection of $1,500 to going to a purely on a quote basis. So I'm just interested. So by changing to that quote methodology, are we suggesting that the fee will be less for some and more for others, or has it been identified that $1,500 is just not sufficient to cover the cost?
That's probably more a question for Robbie, whether he's over that to be able to answer that question. I'm not sure.
No, not completely over, but that would make sense to me, yes, that different situations out there require a quote situation.
Right, so it could well be that some people may end up paying less than the $1,500, which is currently. Yeah,
It'd certainly be the case, yes.
yeah, that's what I was trying to. Yeah, thanks for that. And on page 53, sewer connections, Ōtorohanga. I'm obviously missing something here. When it talks about outside the Ōtorohanga urban areas, what's an example of a sewer connection outside of the urban areas?
Yeah, I think that's probably been in there for a while, and I'm just trying to think where there's anywhere where the sewer goes in Ōtorohanga that's outside the town boundary, and I think there may only just be the odd house that's connected, but there's not vast areas outside the boundary. So
It's sort of a catch-all, just
Yeah,
in case, is it?
yeah.
Okay.
I think even the there's parts inside the town boundary along Ōtorohanga Road along there where the sewer doesn't carry on right up there. So it'll be the other way as well. So.
Okay, and it's just a comment too on the last there, discharge of septic tank waste. I'm sure you're aware at the moment that because of the fact that we've got a screen away for repairs from the waste treatment plant, that we've already had one or two people ring me asking about why the cost of septic tank cleaning has gone from $700 to $2,000. The explanation is that the contractors are having to deliver now the waste to either Te Kuiti or Te Awamutu, and the surcharges are different. So,
And this is one that Tanya talked about earlier, was to bring ourselves into line with our neighbours as well.
Sorry, I missed that because I was answering a question from the mayor, but was that around the trucks, the septic trucks delivering waste to our wastewater plant? Is that what that was about?
Yeah.
So our fees are still half what our neighbouring districts are.
I wasn't questioning
Yeah,
that. I was
okay.
just making the point that at the moment, until that screen is repaired,
Oh, I see. They're
having to pay $2,000
Yes.
to go elsewhere.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And councillors are aware why the screen is in disrepair?
Well, I am. I rang Mark and asked
Yeah,
him. So.
okay, cool.
On page 54, under the recycling, Ōtorohanga recycling centres, we talk about lead acid batteries, but do we need to recognise in any way lithium batteries? Because they do pose quite a significant safety risk, don't they? You've seen highlighted just recently fires and so on. Created by those things, but that was just a question.
No, that's a valid question. I'll have a chat to Jared about that, see whether we should be amending those words maybe to say, and I guess double check, is there actually a difference in the charges that possibly should be set? And it might be too late to get it this year, but maybe next year.
Almost there. On page 60, under designations and notices of requirements, this is under the resource consents. We've gone from a deposit of $2,500 up to $10,000, which seems an extraordinary increase. So have our costs usually been greater than 10? Why has it been necessary to increase it by such an amount?
I'll let Tony answer that one.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that one, councillor. So as Brendan explained, behind these fees and charges, there's different legislation. So this relates to the Resource Management Act, Section 36. So we're entitled to recover actual and reasonable costs of resource management processes. So that's the background to it. Designations are very rare, and this is only a deposit, and this reflects the actual cost, and it's probably going to be higher than this if we ever received a designation, a notice of requirement. These come from network utility operators, they're not from general mum and dad people want to do things, so they're from institutional agencies, and it's quite a big process to go through a designation change.
Like, for example, the airport has a designation and, in terms of flight paths and that. So yeah, it's big companies.
So just following on from that, if I may, so Tony, if I may, through you, your wish, Tony, so are you saying then that the increases in all of these resource costs or charges here, they seem disproportionate in comparison to increases in other fees, but it's just driven by legislation, or is it driven by the fact that we have not been charging enough in the past?
It's the latter, so it reflects the actual and reasonable costs of doing these processes, and they're variable as you look through there. There's different adjustments based on the actual cost that we expect to cost us and to recover from these processes.
And just one last one. Littering. Those changes of fees and charges. It's on page 70, the last item there. We're now proposing a fee of $400 for litter, but I just wondered, how are we intending to enforce that?
So I'll answer that one again. So there's infringements that we can issue if we are able to identify the person responsible. So that's the first thing. It's only if we can identify, and often they're fly-by-nighters. And so we can infringe them. So it's infringement.
So is that covered by any bylaw that we have? Something like a little bylaw, or is it just, or are we actually able just to go and charge a fee without.
It's regulated by the Litter Act,
Correct.
which is, that's another change the government's proposing at the moment to increase enforcement opportunities around it as well.
Okay.
So that's what's behind it.
Right. Okay. Oh, well, thank you for that. That's all I had. Thank you very much.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Prendergast.
Thank you, your worship. Most of my questions have been answered, which were all in line with all of these changes, in line with other district councils, and cost recovery, which has been answered. Just out of interest, on page 70, the dock campgrounds. So do dock campgrounds still come under the district council, or are they a standalone on their own? So, for example, the Ōtorohanga campground. So, because it's another government agency.
So DOC own the campground at Ōtorohanga, but campgrounds must get licenses. And I think we are the regulatory body that gives the campgrounds the licenses.
Yeah, that's correct. So
Is that
we
right?
do license campgrounds. Yeah, exactly as Chief Executive said. Can't find the page reference. I think we've got different page references on our agenda.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
So
It's page 70 on ours. That's
yeah, but that's the answer.
yeah. Thank you very much.
Couldn't have said it better.
One question.
Thank you, councillor. Any further questions?
I got one. I don't know if you can hear me.
Oh, sorry, Rodney. Rodney, you're on mute for one. That's me.
Oh,
Okay, speak.
no, I'm not. Can you hear
Okay,
me?
sorry, just testing, mate.
Yeah, sweet as. Hey, no, just a little one about the tyres and the nowadays when you buy a brand new tyre, there's the government has set up a thing called TyreWise. So basically, everyone that buys a new tyre has to pay a fee to dispose of that old tyre. So we shouldn't be. It's kind of like double dipping if we're going to be charging people to get rid of their old tyres. So that's probably just a hangover from the old days. But so the government actually take away all the old tyres now that they put in yeah. So
What page are we on, councillor?
on the I had it there before because Kit was talking about it. Page. The rubbish one. Sorry.
So the question is, do we get any of that payment that is made when you buy a tyre back to us in order to dispose of the tyres? Otherwise, we have every right to charge a fee because we still have to do something with them.
Yeah, and
Do
the
we know
answer to that
anything
question
about-
is I would have to ask Jared.
Yeah,
I don't know whether it comes through
Yeah.
the waste management levy, but I haven't seen
But,
any particular payments for tyres, so.
Yeah, it was on page 54, and I'm assuming
Yep.
Envirowaste or whatever administer it. But yeah, they shouldn't be. You know, they'll know about the tyre scheme. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So basically, when you buy a new tyre, you pay up front to dispose of it.
Hmm.
So I'm not sure how they collect the money from the government or who takes them away. But yeah,
I'll talk to
so
Jared
it's
about
just
that.
nothing
try
to
and
look
get some
into. I
info.
think nothing, not a biggie.
Yeah, thanks, councillor.
Okay, cheers. I'll mute.
And that, so councillor Johnson.
You just a comment really just regarding the page 52. At the bottom, the water disconnection and reconnection fees. I note that it's $500 whether you're connecting or reconnecting or disconnecting, and it's obviously a flat fee, so it's not relevant to what the actual costs are. And I was just thinking that we don't actually want it to be easy for people to leave the schemes. We want them to stay with us. We weakens everybody else, everyone that leaves. I'm just wondering, perhaps at some future workshop we should reconsider whether that's we're doing the right thing there by just having one flat fee for you can come and go as you please. The other interesting thing is $500 charge, how does that compare with a tank load of water if you had disconnected and then, you needed some water in a drought, and also compared with your annual charge to belong to the water scheme too, so it'd be less than $500, but there's sort of some economics in there that I think are worth discussing further at the future workshop.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? So I'm scrolling back to the staff recommendation. That Ōtorohanga District Council A adopt the fees and charges 25-26 document number 821294 as presented in Appendix 1 of the staff report, and A confirm that the current fees and charges of the Kawhia community will continue to apply until a subsequent resolution is passed by ADC. Move on a second, move Councillor Jeffrey, second to Councillor Hughes. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thanks, guys. Moving on to item 237, Te Nehe Nui Joint Management Agreement Draft Schedules on page 77. Welcome, Cassidy. Wow, and Tony.
Morena te kora matua, tira koutou ngā kai kaunihira, ngā kuhua mahi tēnā koutou katoa. Yeah, lovely to be here again this morning. It feels like it's gone by so quickly since I was last here presenting. But just want to acknowledge you all this morning, and specifically the mahi that's been led in regard to developing the joint management agreement with Te Nehe Nui in good faith to the settlement legislation, but also our partnership. I do want to, I guess, take the report as read, given we have workshopped it, but wanted to, I guess, quickly summarise that in essence, the schedules provide some key values and guiding frameworks that enable discussions to be had between all of the parties in good faith to the JMA around specific provisions, many of those coming directly from the settlement legislation and from the Resource Management Act. Further to that, and we did discuss it deeply in our last workshop around some of the schedules that regard building capacity within Te Nehe Nui. These are, again, these provide a framework for us to discuss what that might look like moving into the future. So I'll just open the floor now for any questions if you have any.
Oh, sorry, there is one correction to that resolution.
Oh, yes.
Did you want to go back to that?
Yes. So last week we were informed that the Joint Management Committee, the Co-Governance Forum meeting was postponed. So should a decision be made today in regard to the recommendation, an amendment would be required in terms of the date, as we're still awaiting confirmation on a future date.
Just repeat that, so that 30th of May date, you're saying that there.
Yes, so the original co-governance meeting was set for this Friday, but it's been postponed at the request of Te Nehe Nui.
Councillor Prendergast.
Thank you, Your Worship. Firstly, could you possibly just explain to us, so I understand that this is a joint management agreement with Te Nehe Nui. So if there's other iwi or hapu that want through the treaty settlements, clearly, this sort of thing we do an individual negotiation for them. So we could end up with quite a few JMAs, is that correct?
Yes, so this specific joint management agreement is born out of two settlement legislation, one relating to the Waipa and the other relating to the Maniapoto claims settlement. Should there be any other treaty settlements that are negotiated with the Crown that are within our district, I'm sure we would be a part of that discussion, but it would require, with agreement from not only Council and the Crown throughout the process, potentially another joint management agreement. These, I do want to, and Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, many of them are born out of resources. So if we think of the Waikato River and that settlement, that's where many of these joint management agreements come into effect, and working alongside the local authorities that administer those particular resources.
So we're already through your worship party to one with Raukawa.
Yes.
Thank you.
So no, I'll just add to that. So it's exactly right. So the Rockwell one is a river treaty settlement, JMA, which includes across other councils as well. This one is more all encompassing. And the other things to bear in mind is that under the Resource Management Act, it will change. At any point in time, we or an iwi could enter into a joint management agreement under the RMA, which is not treaty settlement, and also a mechanism called mana whakarongi, which is a separate agreement. So there's mechanisms under the RMA which haven't really been taken up because it takes a lot of time and effort to do this. So just keep that in mind as well.
Councillor Jeffries.
Oh, thanks, Your Worship. I guess 4.4 of your report there, I just wondered, 4.4A, where it requires council to conduct a mapping exercise and so on. The question there is, well, there's two questions actually. Once identified those sites of significance, in what ODC documents will interested parties be able to find those? Will it be in a district plan or where would they?
Yeah, I can cover that one. Thank you. So it would be. So once those sites have been identified, and bearing in mind that Maniapoto may choose not to make all of those sites public. So some of those sites might have special significance. And there's precedent for that around South Island with the iwi down there where they've had silent files because of desecration, potential desecration of those sites. So that's one component, but yes, it will be through district plan, and that will be through a plan change. Right, probably when the new RMA replacement comes through, when we bring our new plan in, so that would be the time to do that.
Right. I guess where I'm coming from there is, well, the second part of that question would be, is it intended to have any restrictions on developments within so many metres of a significant site? Is that also a district plan issue? Because we've had that issue out at Carfield, as you're aware, just recently.
Yeah, so that's already codified in the district plan
It
and
is,
under the RMA, and that probably won't change with the new legislation going forward. All this does is just identifies particular sites or areas where those rules might apply.
Okay. So if there is a proposed development somewhere that has one of these silent files potentially, is that going to, how does that affect an applicant who would not be privy to those files? Is that going to slow down their process? Is that going to, I just don't quite understand how that works. Yeah.
So the South Island example is probably a process I'm not familiar with when I was down there. And so an applicant comes in, there's a silent file, they know there's a general area in there. They then talk to the iwi themselves, and council's not involved in that typically. And the iwi advise them, yes, this is a special significance, or no, it's not. And so then there's a conversation, I guess, between the parties around what mitigation, if there is mitigation available, and that then informs the decision back to the council on a resource consent. So it is a bit convoluted, but there's a process and a precedent for that.
Okay, thanks very much.
Councillor Johnson.
Yes, just on page 107. Just a question. So the second box is establish a paid advisory committee.
Oh, that's on the next agenda item in terms of the multi-engagement framework implementation.
Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Apologies for it.
Come back to the next one. Hey, the Cassidy probably bringing my attention is 4.2. Under the terms of the JMA, a series of schedules should be developed within 12 months of signing to operationalise the agreement and guidance implementation. In terms of KPIs around that timeframe, what do you do to ensure that happens? Because without anything really set there, it says should be developed within 12 months. I mean, but it doesn't happen in 2 years or 3 years. How do we bring that into timeframe contextualized to ensure that you're actually meeting those timeframes? Or is that something that is mutually accepted between two parties?
Through you, Worship, the language might be a little bit confusing here. So this is talking about the very schedules that are on the agenda today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So should implies a future state, but actually we're talking about those schedules that are on the agenda today. Yeah, the wording's a little bit confusing there.
My apologies. So that the wording, so in the joint management
Yeah.
agreement, it was agreed that from settlement, they would be developed within 12 months of signing.
Yeah.
That unfortunately wasn't the case in this setting, but was agreed upon by the joint management committee that work would continue to progress with all of the parties. And so these schedules that are presented today are what have been born of that.
Through you, Your Worship, if I could just say, I think the extra time has been really beneficial for developing these schedules. It's allowed for some really constructive and deep conversation around how they will be enacted. And for us as councils to identify where we might, there might be sort of any constraints on our ability to kind of do our job under the various pieces of legislation that we work under. So I think even though it might have taken a bit longer, it's been quite beneficial for that. I don't know whether it's what it means.
Yeah, I just think from the governance end, it's been quite, there's been lots of clarity in actually where each component sits in terms of these schedules and how we can better build a relationship to make them a little bit more relational. So you can actually run them out. And I think on the back of Councillor Jeffries, like the relationship is going to be the biggest key to these schedules. And, you know, sometimes our words can become quite ambiguous and quite arduous in these things, but I think if we all sitting on the same level with the same relationship, looking at the same outcome, they should just fall quite naturally into place and not hold up time as we know in some instance for development. But I do totally agree the time has been key to getting these really clear, and they haven't had that clarity in other JMAs in the past.
Thank you, Councillor.
I just note this, it looks like there's two notifications.
Put the mucking in around this to get to where we are, okay? Staff recommendation that Ōtorohanga District Council endorse the draft JMA schedules as outlined in the attached document of Appendix 1, subject to any final minor amendments agreed to in the JMA Co-Governance Committee, and B, delegates the authority to OPC's JMA appointee, Councillor Tamaki, to approve. Next, Te Nehi Nehi Nui JMA Co-Governance Forum meeting. I'd like to move that second. Councillor Willison, all in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm imagining you're not going anywhere. Item 238, Māori Engagement Framework Implementation Plan, page 99, and welcome, Nadia.
Well, kia ora no. So for the next item, speaking to the Māori Engagement Framework Implementation Plan. So this has been developed specifically to help embed the framework within the organisation. So just want to emphasise Appendix 1 that outlines what we're going to be doing, all of the different steps and timeframes in terms of delivering and implementing the framework, which was recently adopted into the organisation. I will note as well, Appendix 2 was provided as information for your information moving forward. You'll note many of them, they are already aligned to what we are doing as business as usual. There are some key areas where we recommend deferring for consideration should the council wish following the next elections. But I want to take this report as read and open for any questions at this time.
Questions, councillors? Councillor Johnson.
Yes, this time, yes, page 107. Just yeah, just the second box, which is establish a paid advisory committee to inform work, etc. And then it's not budgeted, but it is. I do note that it's for the annual plan 26-27. So we are we accepting something here that will be budgeted, or without any further information? What's curious about this? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Johnson. So all of the complementary findings that are presented in Appendix 2, they are drawn from the rich kōrero that was provided when all of the interviews were conducted, not only with staff and elected members, but also with key Māori stakeholders as well. So to honour that, we've presented them as information. The specific finding speaks to an opportunity to consider what another manifestation of supporting Māori in decision making might look like in the future. So it's not specifically budgeted in our current LTP, but could be, should the council wish, something to consider looking at moving into our next council following the elections.
So just to add some clarity to your specific question around adopting the implementation plan for the framework, you are not adopting the complementary findings specifically that. We're highlighting work that will be undertaken as a conversation with the incoming council.
Councillor Jeffries.
Yes, thanks, Your Worship. Yes, I quite understand where Councillor Johnson's coming from, and I actually had the same query, if you like. But the fact that it's something that's going to be debated in the future sort of allayed any concerns that I might have had. But so I think that is going to be an interesting discussion when it comes up. Yep. Thanks.
Thank you, councillors. Staff recommendation is that the Ōtorohanga District Council adopts the Māori Engagement Framework Implementation Plan and delegates operational changes to the Chief Executive. I'd like to move that. Second, Councillor Tamaki. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you.
Kia ora, thank you. I'll get to work then. Thank you, Whānau.
Item 239, Te Korowai Council Mark Independent Evaluation Report and Proposed Improvement Plan, page 116. Welcome, Ross.
Morena koutou, thank you, Your Worship and councillors. So 2 elements to this item. The first is formally receiving the Te Korowai Independent Evaluation Report. So that's dated 2024 November. And then the second element is endorsing the proposed improvement program arising from that. I wouldn't generally, Your Worship, use a sporting analogy, but I think it's apt here that today's great performance is tomorrow's expectation. So the program that's before you for your consideration is about building on the great performance that we've achieved and continuing to improve. You'll note that the time frame is 3 to 5 years, and the wording I've used is the proposed action should be viewed as an intention rather than an absolute. So we all know the dynamic and fast changing environment that we operate in, and I think it would be remiss of me or anyone to think that an assessment that was done in November 2024, the position in our world won't change significantly because it's already changing quite rapidly, you know, a little on 6 months on from that. So with your support, the wording to endorse the program is deliberately used. The expectation I have is that this program will continue to develop, change, be modified, priorities will change as they did in response to the 2019 assessment and the improvement program that arose from that. So with that, Your Worship, happy to stop there and take any questions that members may have.
Thank you, Ross. Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Ross, this is just within the assessment summary, on the first page, the population mix, how did they come up there? Because it's 116% population. Is there's more than one identifier? And I don't know.
So two things. One is all of the data that sits outside the council is provided by a verifiable source. In this case, it's Stats New Zealand and the last census. And if you think back, maybe not, but the opportunity to identify as a particular group wasn't limited to one selection. So people could identify with a number of different ethnic groups, and that's why the percentage exceeds 100.
Yes, I know. I thought it was a bit strange, but yeah, okay, thanks for the explanation. And just one other point, page 151 of that assessment summary. It's about media training. It says it's a gap we can plug. Media training for elected members and staff. I mean, harking back to His Worship's comment at the start of the meeting about the media and some of the sensationalist stories that are going out there, and I'm pretty sure that all of us, well, for me personally, since the start of this triennium in the last 6 months have been, most have been contacted by the media, and everybody else is probably at some stage, and I just sort of the same as a gap that we can plug, or we certainly something we could look into as far as that's concerned, because it's I think some of these stories that are coming out, you know, you're being misquoted and other things, and I sort of just, yeah, you've got to be a little bit careful, don't you? Say the least.
Through Your Worship, others may have a comment, but me, that's one of the important matters that the incoming council will have as part of their induction program.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Yeah, I just saw it because it was brought up in here in the external communications and media part of that report. That was all. Thanks, Lee.
Councillor Prendergast.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a comment of endorsement really for the whole team. Fantastic report, and so nice to see the clear steps that they've identified going forward. And of course, from a risk and insurance point of view, the identify the future challenges will be major for everyone. And first, of course, being the government's leadership with the elections. So that's it is going to be very much a work in progress. Well done, everyone.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, Ross, it was actually good reading through the council mark report again. I think the first time when it came out, I just kind of skimmed through it a wee bit and looked for all the highlights and kind of wallowed in our glory. But this time was actually good getting in there and just reading. So yeah, thank you for the work that you put into it. And that is, you know, a big part of getting this equation in front of us now. So much appreciated. With no further questions, we have the staff recommendation that Ōtorohanga District Council receive the Te Kōrewai Council Mark Independent Evaluation Report November 2024 and endorse the proposed Te Kōrewai Council Mark Improvement Program dated April 2025, subject to any final changes. I'd like to move that. Second, Councillor Dow. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Go make yourself a cup of coffee, councillors. We're taking a short break, so we'll adjourn the meeting briefly. Order councillors, I'd like to reconvene the meeting and invite Paul up to the stage. Item 240, proposed advertising for temporary road closure for the Target New Zealand 2025 rally. Over to you, Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have received an application for the annual Targa Rally, and as per previous years, we've come to council before we advertise to ensure that council are comfortable with the rally being hosted in this district. And so they don't get any surprises from people seeing adverts and get phone calls. Don't know anything about it, so we come to you guys first. Is there any questions?
Thanks, Paul. How do you get on with state highway closures?
That is their problem, not our problem. We don't get involved.
Because surely there's detours back through, if they're closing a state highway, you'd imagine they have to have open detours, do they not? And if that is the case, then those detours would be through our roads. I'm just out of curiosity, I can't imagine, because we're talking a time frame there which is unspecified, which could be hours to close a state highway. Yeah.
The section of state highway they're looking to close would mean the road was detoured through Newtonui Road, which is probably more used than that section of state highway anyway. So it's the section from Newtonui Road back to towards Ōtorohanga. The windy bit. I had the same question, Your Worship, and so are we able to approve the application on the basis that it will be subject to approval from NZTA on the State Highway 39 section, or how? Because I support the application, make that clear, but I do have the same concerns as His Worship that I'm not too sure how we get around the State Highway 39 issue, that's all. So through you, Mr. Chairman, we're approving proceeding with the application, not approving the application. So the application would have to go through the road closure process. Then we'd report back to council saying, here's the outcome, here's any objections we've received, and feedback from NZTA.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. That separation is important. Yeah. Further questions, councillors? All very straightforward. Staff recommendation that Ōtorohanga District Council, in accordance with section 319H and 342 and section 11 of Schedule 10 of the proposed Local Government Act 1974, approves advertising seeking community feedback of the proposed temporary road closure on Thursday, 16th October 2025, in accordance with the application by Ultimate Rally Group. I'd like to move that, second to Councillor Hughes. All in favour? Against? Carried. Easy. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 241, community-led Ōtorohanga Housing Plan Update, May 2025, on page 167. One would imagine, yep, one would imagine Nadia will come down, and nice to see you, Michelle.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Kia ora anō. Today's report supports the attached update from the housing group that developed the community-led Ōtorohanga housing plan, a plan developed by our community and for our community, and which was endorsed by council in July of last year. As His Worship has said, we have Michelle Hollins joining us today, who is the Economic Development Manager from Elevate, who is another key endorsing partner of the plan. The housing update provides progress on the plan, the actions underway, and our collective response to local housing challenges. I'm happy to take any questions of the council report, and perhaps Michelle and I can answer the questions that relate to the attached housing update.
Thank you, Nadia. Just out of my own curiosity, the damp and mouldy dwellings, those stats are across all dwellings, not just rentals, properly owned dwellings as well.
Yeah, they're across anybody that filled out the census, and it's an interesting stat, I think, because it talks to anybody who has more than an A4 piece of paper
worth of mold in their house. So if you think about most of us, probably a lot of us tick that box. So it's a little bit hard to interpret how bad that really is. Yeah.
I think there's, massive difference between black mold in every corner of your room versus your shoes are going off in the cupboard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, if I can add to that too, when we held some workshops with our local developers, we had, I'll keep going. We had, we even had some of the builders saying that new homes are finding that they have black mold because they're so airtight and people are leaving their homes during the day and being security conscious, they're not airing the homes out. So, yeah.
Any questions, councillors? Councillor Jeffries.
Thanks, Worship. I just wanted to compliment both Nadia and Michelle for the work they've been doing on this. It's been a pretty long haul up until now, but we feel that we're actually starting to make some progress with this. I think one of the stumbling blocks that we've identified at the moment is that if we're in a position to actually provide some additional housing, we don't have any land on which to put it. So that's one of the things that we're actually currently investigating, and I've actually approached both real estate agents in town here, or both firms, to keep an eye out for something that might be suitable for that purpose. I just wanted to highlight a couple of things. Under clause 4.5, there's a comment there that public housing demands increased from 8% to 42% over 4 years, and that's an extraordinary increase. And I don't really know the reasons behind it, but it's of real concern and highlights the demand problem that we have. Now, I appreciate that 22 is 3 years ago, but I don't think that problem's gone away. Sorry, that was on page 167, 68, yes, under 4.5. Also, on the following page under 413 and 415, you're probably aware that central government has made some changes around the housing, and so this report highlights the fact that some of these things are a government initiative. It's not a council's change, and that nothing from our perspective has changed. And the comment there on government has separately signalled potential Pakaianga national directions by the end of this calendar year is also very encouraging. That was an area that the committee has discussed on occasions too with local marae, particularly around Kāwhia and local guys too, I guess. But so it was really just to make those comments, Your Worship, and to continue to support the work that the committee's doing. I think definitely heading in the right direction, and at some stage we'll be coming back, or the committee will be coming back to council with perhaps a proposal on how we can achieve what it is that we're wanting to achieve. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for your contribution, Councillor. Councillor Prendergast and Councillor Tamaki.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mine's really just a comment to a great report and wonderful to see the progress that's been made. One of the things that used to come through the Maru Energy Trust was that there was quite a gap in the fact that not every house that needs insulating can be because of the R&D status of it. And that must be a big challenge to address in some quite significant. And I do say there's no funding for that. That's sort of a problem. Not that we're aware of. No.
Morena, just in terms of Waihikurangi and the part they play in Tene Henei Nui, what has there been conversation around partnerships in terms of not only marae, but whānau blocks? There been that conversation?
We're probably getting more of that kind of conversation through council than through the housing group. So one of the comments around this housing plan in particular is that it doesn't speak much to Papakainga, and that was somewhat deliberate from the housing group. So while we have had representatives such as Mihi Owen and Kathy Hollins on the group, we feel that there are people who are more have more expertise and more guidance in the area of Papakainga than what the small community-led housing group does. So a lot of what we do is more around facilitation. So if someone approaches us around Papakainga or Māori land blocks, we'll direct them into other conversations such as with council or TPK.
Because just on the back of the Councillor Jeffries, marae are quite widespread in terms of members, and whānau kind of concentrated a little bit. So yeah, no.
Thank you, councillors. Yeah, thank you for the work you have both done. Look, I've been kind of on the fringes, or certainly with the Hamilton Waikato Housing Initiative, and that it has to be the most frustrating and hardest journey that anybody's going to go on. I mean, we've talked about the housing shortfalls for years and years and years, and it's something where we don't seem to make any progress, unfortunately. Well, little progress. You know, get a lot of data, but it just doesn't seem to manifest into tangible results a lot of time. So thank you. Carry on persevering, and may wonderful things come out the other end. So we have a staff recommendation that the Ōtorohanga District Council receive the report titled Item 241 Community-Led Ōtorohanga Housing Plan Update May 2025, document number 821540 from Nadia Gower, Group Manager Strategy and Community. I'd like to move that. Secondly, Councillor Jeffries, all in favour? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Michelle. Love your timing. Right, we'll move on to item 242, Community Facilities Activity Update for the month ending 30th of April 2025 on page 198. Welcome, Jared.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. I'll take my report as read, and I'll just give a little bit of an overview of some of the points in this report. Firstly, a couple of things, our contracts that are coming up for renewal this year, or refuse and recycling is next year, but of course we need that process started early to give any lead in time for a contractor that wins that. We've now had our MOU signed for our joint procurement between us and Waitomo District Council. So Tanya and Ben have signed that and given us the go-ahead. Already deep into the contracts now, getting those sorted between us and them and ready to go out. Later this year, we'll be coming back to you with a preferred contractor to be signed off. So that's moving along nicely. We also got our Ōtorohanga toilet cleaning contract with one major change. We're bringing the Waipapa toilet into that contract. Our last arrangement had ended and we've got it as a variation to another contract. We used to tie in with the dam cleaners and they no longer wanted to carry out that. So myself and Mark decided the best option was to tie it in with another contract and hopefully economy of scale to help get that a little bit cheaper by tying it in with another one. And then our gardening contract coming up as well. As you all met Jane earlier, you'll see we now have a waste management and minimisation section to our report. Part of our requirements from our WMMP is to report back to council on progress through the different initiatives we said we'd get done. I'd probably say 99% of this section has been Jane. You'll see we've working on disaster waste management. We've got a battery recycling going to be set up in Ōtorohanga here. We're working on some chemical collections throughout the rural districts. The company that's doing that is joint with Waitomo as well. So it's really been taken really well. You'll see in 5.8, we've got a table of some workshops coming up. So Jane has done quite a bit of work in around that and trying to make sure we tailor these workshops to our community. A lot of them cater for your cities, which we all know doesn't always work for us down here. So the likes of the sewing and soft materials, we will target schools and things. It's good for school uniforms, things like that. Things that will really help our community, as well as give them the tools to help save some money and also minimise our waste. So those are our main ones, and I'll hand it over for any questions.
Thanks, Jared. Just a question, I'm sure you dig into it out of my own curiosity. In terms of the Waipapa Dam tours, do you have conversations with Taupo District Council about whoever does Maunga Kino and the likes?
Yes, through your worship, we've tried that. It's quite difficult. It's still another step on for them. So we've tried contacting them, but a lot of those small districts just have a little person local that does them and doesn't really want to they just toddle on around the road, clean a toilet. And I mean, we have that in our own community at Aotea. It's just a local resident. So we found probably this was our best option and probably hopefully cheapest.
Thank you. Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Hi, Jared. It's good to see that you've got the battery recycling coming up at the base station there. So what sort of batteries are they can they recycle? They take? Is it a specific type, or is it all of them?
No, it will be all your standard batteries that take. So it's if you board Google Phoenix battery recycling, they're the company we're engaging. So they basically bring down a little container type unit that's pre-built. It's got fire suppressant and alarms and monitored and everything for the safety. And then they will come down every so often and empty them out.
Oh, sounds good. Yeah. Just another comment on the Melia trees outside Mitre 10 that were taken down. I got some positive comments about that from Mitre 10 and how good a job that the contractors did bringing that down. If there's questions actually for you as far as what about the footpath rehabilitation around those trees? Is there something budgeted for that, perhaps?
Yes, we will grind those stumps and the footpath repaired. I'll work with our roading team because they may go a little bit wider with their repairs because some of it's pretty broken up in that area. But we will go, the plan is to go back to a full width footpath. We did really rush in just to get them down because with the autumn coming up, the leaves are about to drop. We wanted to quickly just get them on the ground before we had another big cleanup and then remove them after that point. So yeah, there is a process and we'll keep it moving along.
Yeah, well, I said I spoke to the owner of Mitre 10, Alan, and he was pleased with the way it was done. No mess dropped over his fence or anything. He said it was very professionally done. So kudos to them.
Thank you.
Councillor Jeffries.
Oh, thank you, Worship. Yeah, thanks, Jared. A good report. The just picking up on what Councillor Hughes has just asked about the batteries. Do they include lithium?
Yes, they will do.
Great, that's great.
In today's market, that's probably going to be a big chunk of what they'll be recycling. Yeah.
Mr. Johnson.
It's just a couple of questions regarding the farm chemical collection. Is it how often does it happen, and how do we publicise that? And are there collection points that farmers go to? Just this detail, please.
So to start with, this is our first time conducting it here, so this is a one-off. A lot of these programs here, you'll know we haven't had anyone in this role. So these are one-offs and we need to see how they're supported first before we look at funding long-term. Agrochemicals themselves reach out to the farmers and basically we've sort of given them a budget, and once those slots are full, that's completed, which I believe they are, and then once we look at how that operates, we can then do it again next year. But they come onto the farms. One of the bonuses about this scheme, they do the advertising. They've reached out to farmers, and so you can only do so many at a time, and their slots are pretty much full at the moment. There'll be some more advertising to make sure they basically have a full slot for here and Waitomo, and goes really well. Then we can run it again, next year as well again, and keep going.
Thank you, Jared. Councillor Prendergast, then Councillor Jeffries.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, so egg recovery comes through our area and they are very, very efficient. They can send you an email well in advance. You have to submit what you have so that they know what sort of load they're going to have. They're very efficient and it works well. Yeah.
Thank you, Kathy. That's good feedback to know. We've probably got a very good contractor on our hands there.
Thanks, Worship. Sorry, I meant to ask too, Jared, just before, under 5.5, 5.6, the chemical collections. What's the story with old paint tins? Is that part of the so-called chemical collection, or is that a separate?
So that would fall into the household one. The egg recovery one is more around your dedicated farm chemicals, acids, alcohols, those sorts of things.
So if someone out our way, for example, like me, wanted to take some old paint tins along to the transfer station, is there a separate section to deposit those, or do they just get chucked in the?
They can pull them aside if you take them to them. But there'll be, once we run this collection, there'll be a lot more advertising come out around it.
Okay.
We're just in the early stages at this point, but once that comes around, there'll be an actual collection point. We probably will be tying in with our refuse centres because that's where people go anyway.
Sure. Okay. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Jared. We have a staff recommendation that the Ōtorohanga District Council receive the report titled Community Facilities Activity Update for the month ending 30th April 2025, document number 821421. Move Councillor Prendergast, second Councillor Johnson. All in favour? Yes, carried. Thank you. Appreciate it. Moving on to item 243, updated bridge weight access limits and posted restrictions, Ōtorohanga District 2025. This page 203. Welcome, Paul. And Robbie.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The purpose of this report is to update the council on the current bridge postings and structural load limits and changes required because of National Heavy Vehicle Access Standards changing. So the background, the need for this review was the general access vehicle load limits increased to 50 max, which is 50 tonnes. Bridges that cannot support 50 max must now be posted with a weight or a speed limit or both to ensure safety and to protect the asset. And the limits are enforceable by the regulations law. So we've done a summary, and out of our 136 bridges, 5 bridges require posting under 44 tonnes, 14 bridges are posted at 44 tonnes, which is the old class 1, and 4 bridges can carry 48 tonnes. Previously, we only had 3 bridges posted. Under the overweight permit system, people can still apply for individual permits or vehicles for any route that they choose to use, and we will assess it based on the specific load and axle configuration. So the calcs we use are more general. And the implementation steps we intend to carry out, we've carried out an assessment by a chartered engineer. We're going to install signage across the bridges that are affected. We're going to engage with our directly affected landowners, so the ones that's their sole or main access to property. There's a public notification process and an NZTA map that will need updating, and we'll update our own website. I think that's possibly enough for a summary.
Just in light, thank you, Paul. Yeah, it's good to get the update on where the bridges are. In light of that, is there any real revelations within our district of bridges that need immediate upgrading to accommodate the axle weights?
So with the postings that we're proposing, or we're informing council, is there is no immediate action. We have a plan of upgrading some of the structures over the next 4 or 5 years in our asset management plan. Last year we already did Leith Bridge, so we sort of knew about these bridges. We just hadn't followed a process for posting them.
Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, I'm glad Councillor Dow's online. I'd be interested to hear what he's got to say about this. But just with regard to 2.3, there's 23 bridges there that require something. Does that mean so all the other 100 or so bridges are all good? They can take the 50 tonne, is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Dow, then Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, Paul, I'm just curious, like to get 50 max, you've got to have an axle spread of 20 meters. So from the first axle to the last axle has to be 20 meters long. And it's actually you pretty much run lighter axle weights than what like on your table. So basically any bridge, in my thinking, this is just that's shorter than 20 meters long, there's never going to be 50 max on it because the trucks has to be 20 meters long from axle to axle. And also the 8.2 tonne weight limit per axle. I know that's the maximum you can go, but the 50 max you can't actually get that much anyway. So do you know, like for instance, a culvert, you can't have a 50 tonne unit on a culvert because it's just a culvert. And you're obviously rating it as being able to cut an axle of 8.2, whereas at 50 max your axles are roughly about 6 tonne is all you can have. So I'm just wondering why they use those sort of figures and how you get about it. Yeah.
So the screening process involved looking at all our bridges and the span of each span. So some of them might be long bridges, but with multiple short spans. So you actually, how much weight can be put on an individual span? So they looked at the beams underneath the bridge to see if they could take the total weight, but they also looked at the deck strength to see that's mainly what gets driven by the axle, so the individual weight on a point. So they do both screening for both. And yes, they take into account the length of bridge. The only culverts we're looking at restricting is based on axle weights, not on the maximum for 50 max, but 50 max is the mechanism that you use to do the evaluation. So the culverts are normally shallow, so they haven't got a lot of cover, a lot of soil between the top of the pipe and the road. So the point load from the axle goes directly onto the feet. And we've actually seen evidence of that at Worcester Culvert on just out of town at the end by Phillips Ave. And that's got a broken feet, and that's on the list.
So yeah, because so basically what I'm meaning, Paul, is if your bridge is only 10 meters of a span, well, you can't get a 50 max vehicle on it. That's what I don't quite understand. You know what I mean? So like it has to be at least 20 meters long to fit a 50 max unit on a bridge.
Is that answer with the axle weight per span? Is it?
No,
Yeah, so they calculate that on the axle groups. So say a 10-meter span, it's how many axle groups can you put on a 10-meter span? So often it's the quad axle at the back of a trailer might be 5 meters. So that all 5 axles would be on the it's quite complicated.
Yeah,
but yes, it's how many axles can fit on a bridge.
Even at 44 tonne, you can still have the same amount of axle weights. It's just anyway, it's probably better to talk to you. Yeah.
You two need to sit down over a cup of coffee, councillor.
Yeah, I don't think he quite understands, where I'm coming from. Anyway,
Okay.
move on. You can, just an aside issue, you can actually get, like, we've had vehicles where
You're frozen, councillor. Okay, while you're getting your composure, I'll hand over to councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Worship. Paul, my question is around enforcement of these restrictions on these bridges. I mean, one would think that the New Zealand Police's commercial vehicle division won't be out the back of Arahina, enforcing bridge restrictions from carriers that perhaps come in from outside the district, which would be, delivering to farms. So, I mean, it's all very well having a sign up on a bridge that says it's restricted to 39 or 44 ton, but how do you enforce this? These guys are going to probably sneak over if they're going to make a delivery to a farm. So, so how are we going to get around that?
So that's a national problem, and the powers that be are working with the industry. There's an awful lot of electronic data available on what's moving where and how big loads are. Most trucks know pretty much what they're carrying, load cells, things like that. So there's a sort of a movement in the industry to coordinate the electronic side of where loads are going to the enforcement side, so that we know if there's a 50-ton load of logs that's come on this route, hey, it must have gone over these bridges. So that I start asking questions. You're probably not going to get it with a policeman sitting on the side of the road with a set of scales.
Do you think this a case for, say, give an example, a farmer who would normally order a certain amount of weight of feed or something coming in, knowing that bridge, they would have to be aware that the bridge coming into their property is restricted, so they would only order what they would, what was legal to get across that bridge. I mean, if we could there must be some way of putting out an awareness about that rather than, because the last thing you want to do, and we've all seen it over the years, trucks going through bridges because they're just too damn heavy or the bridges aren't up to it. So, I mean, these property owners have to be aware as well that, I presume so, maybe have to get that message out there to people with those affected bridges. Sorry.
Yeah, so part of our plan is we will be directly contacting any normally rural properties that is their sole or main point of access to the property. A lot of them have alternatives if they get the odd big load. There's also a permitting process, and it's quite it's more flexible than the generic process used for bridge screening.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Paul. Yeah, hopefully this, obviously the report on the bridges and the different extra weightings they can take will give us a bit longer life on some of these bridges if everybody adheres to the rules. The staff recommendation that Ōtorohanga District Council receives a report on the updated bridge weight access limits and posted restrictions for the Ōtorohanga District roading network. We have moved to second it. Move Councillor Williston, second Councillor Johnson. All in favour?
Aye.
Yes, carried. Thank you. I missed a question from you, Councillor Jeffries.
Yes, you did actually, but no worries. It was just in relation to Waiharakiki, because half of that bridge is Watomo and the other half is ours, as I understand it. So is this assessment for the whole bridge or just our half? So the historic arrangement with that bridge is that Ōtorohanga District Council manages the structure in its entirety, and the funding is
divided. That may change.
Can it fall under our JMA?
Cheers, guys. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 244, finance report to 30 April 2025 on page 213. Welcome, Brendan.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, so this is the finance report to the end of April. 2 months left to go in the year financially. I'll take the report as read and just cover off some of the highlights, I guess. So net surplus is pretty good compared to budget. When I went through this report with the leadership team, a question was brought up around the fact that we're showing a surplus, a deficit in the end of the year, the full year budget, sorry, and yet we're showing a surplus at the moment. And is there going to be a massive swing as things change around? Not likely, because we are making substantial savings in some areas, like the employee benefit expenses and the other expenses. For example, you see the sum of both of those were about 1.3 million under budget to the end of April. We're not expecting a whole heap of random expenses to suddenly come through in the last couple of months that are going to flip us around. We might end up with a little bit of a deficit, but I don't think it will end up anywhere near the 1.4 million that we were projecting when we did the budgets. Another point, operating the other expenses in the next month's report. So we've had a expert from the Institute of Directors have a look through our financial report that we presented to you, to see if there's any improvements we can make. She's come up with some recommendations that Tanya and Graham and myself have been through. So some of those will start to get implemented over the next few reports. Some of them are quite easy, quick fixes, and some are obviously a bit longer. So we'll try and get some of those quick, easy ones in the next couple of reports. So you'll see, for example, other expenses will probably be down the table. It'll break that down into a bit more information as we do our annual report. So in the notes in the annual report, we break that down into road maintenance, asset maintenance, activity operations, just to give you a bit more information as to where some of those, I have put in the words, but just to give you a table as well, showing the actual information. So there'll be more information next month. Onto the balance sheet, we're in, again, pretty good position there. However, you will notice that while we have a healthy working capital, a lot of that is actually more in the trade and other receivables as opposed to cash. We do have quite substantial debtors outstanding as at the end of April. Now, some of that is water, which is due at the end of this month for town. Yeah, the March invoicing for town is due at the end of the month. And then there's a few other debtors as well that are outstanding, some longer term ones, some big capital project related ones, not capital we're doing, but other, I guess, we're carrying out. That's what I'm trying to get at. There's still some invoices for the final wash up of that are outstanding to be paid. So that's what, so we're looking healthy, but a lot of it is people buying us money as opposed to money sitting in our bank. On to the cost of service statement. So again, there we're looking in a good situation there. Capital wise, we're about 2.6, or capital loan repayments about 2.6 under budget. Some of those aren't likely to happen. So as I mentioned last month, some of that's the NZTA subsidy that was budgeted that we never got when we did the LTP, particularly around those minor improvements or low cost, low risk, as it was known. And then there's some other projects as well that are probably not likely to happen, particularly some of the rural water scheme ones. We had the meetings with the rural schemes earlier this month. Yes. And so some of those projects that were in there either not happening because of changed circumstances or have come in under budget, and the rest of their budget is not likely to be spent. So we should end up under budget in terms of capital. Obviously, we'll have some carryovers associated with that, and that'll probably come back to September meeting of council before the end of the term, so that this council authorising carryovers rather than trying to take it to the new council, which could be quite interesting and cause some issues if we try to do that. And then the cash flows. So yeah, cash coming in and out, as you can see. So again, that investing activities, which is mostly our capital side of things, is quite under budget for the same reasons that I've talked about. It also includes things in this year, so not stuff that's carried over from previous years, but we spent the money in the previous year. So that's why there's a bit of a difference, as I explained. And then in terms of the debt, so we have 2 million maturing at the end, or sorry, not the end, the middle of June. And so we'll look at re-extending that. One consideration that Graham and I are working through at the moment is in terms of what we do with debt, in light of the fact that there is going to be a decision made at the end of next month around water and the potential, if you go down the preferred option path as it is at the moment, that we will get some money in to cover the debts associated with water at the time of transfer. So we're considering how we're going to make that work so we don't extend any debt past when we'll get that money in, because there's no point taking long-term debt, then have to break it to pay it off. So we're working through that sort of discussion at the moment, not trying to predetermine your decision, but considering that in any decisions we make. And we're far enough out, if you do go down that path, that we have the ability to do that. But just to give you a heads up.
So Brendan, on those, the debt profile there.
Yep.
You've got obviously 2 more maturing in September.
Yes.
Is that with the intent of those rolling over, or any of those will be paid off?
At this point, we're probably looking like those will roll over. Yeah, because we haven't quite got to the point of working out the monthly split for next year's budgets yet. We've just got the full budget for the year, so I haven't actually had the chance to go through and work out cash flow wise. It may be a case of some of that may be able to be repaid in September, but we might have to borrow it again later in the year to you know, because there's no point holding debt just to pay interest if we've got money in the bank. Yeah.
And interest rates are still fairly flat as well, you know, so, you know, there's very little difference between short term and medium term interest rates. So, you know, so we just set them up, we just roll them over just short term. But Brendan and I had an initial meeting the other day around that debt transfer, you know, and how that's gonna look with the Waikato would have done well. So at the moment, we've basically just supplied them with all of our forecast data in terms of internal debt and external debt. So they'll go away and look at, you know, I guess the different ways that different councils approach that, and then come back, I guess, with a system on how that can be allocated. But you know, like there's councils that have you know, that are highly indebted and have, you know, long-term debt that goes way past the transition dates with swaps and caps and all sorts of things in place. So they've got to unravel all of that as well. So in terms of our debt structure, it's relatively simple.
It's quite interesting. I thought it was fairly brave of financial advisor last night on the news saying that OCR is going to drop in the next couple of calls. I mean, we can predict that's going to happen, but actually come out on public television and say, hey, this is going to happen, so hold off refinancing. I thought, yeah, brave call.
Yeah.
Councillor Jeffries.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. I commend your approach on that. I think it's very prudent the way in which you've addressed that. So certainly support that. Just a couple of questions, if I may. On page 214 of the agenda, it's the last bullet point where you talk about finance costs being over budget due to timing of loan interest payments and so on.
Yes.
That shows that we're currently 150,000 over the annual budget.
Yeah.
And I accept that we've actually debt's gone up during the year, but it seems to be out of kilter a little bit with the budget. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so the way interest works on LGFA loans, partly depends on the length of the loan, obviously, but anything that's over 6 months, I guess, they invoice you every 6 months for interest. Anything shorter, you only pay at the time that you refinance the loan. So it's just the timing of when our loans have come due versus what we thought we might need to do when we did the budget. Just means that allocation is slightly different. Obviously, like as you say, compared to the full year budget, we're up because our borrowings have gone up what we originally budgeted as well. So yeah, so it's just a timing issue around, and because we did a lot more short-term borrowing than we probably initially thought we might when we were doing the budgets. So therefore, we've had some more interest costs that have been front-loaded into the year that we've had to repay the interest because it's been not been 6 month, 12-month sort of payments.
There was some, there was a couple of things that we forecast the budget in terms of having to use debt. One was the land purchase.
Yeah.
Up here around the treatment plant. So, you know, there was a couple of mil there that we had to debt fund that wasn't forecast as well. So that's it.
Thanks, Ed. And the other one I had was, it was on the combined cost of service statement, which is on page 6. Can you just perhaps clarify for us the total operating revenue of 32.7 mil?
Yes.
And the total operating expenditure of 30.5 mil?
Yes.
Why are they so different to the figure that shows in the statement of comprehensive revenue and expenses?
Yeah. So that's because that includes internal overheads as well.
Thought it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so in the statement of comprehensive revenue and expenses, that gets eliminated out because they offset each other.
Yep, sure.
You understand this, but I guess to explain it.
Yeah, I just wondered whether it had to do with the internal recoveries or something. Yeah.
Yeah, so the combined cost of service statement shows the actual cost of running that, which includes all those overheads, whereas the revenue and expenses or comprehensive statement of revenue and expenses are income and expenditure for the year. So those overheads offset each other, cancel out, so they're not.
Okay. And the last one was on your cash flow statement, which is on page 218. How confident are you that, I think you might have already answered this, but how confident are you that we're going to actually end up the financial year with $3.1 million in the bank?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Yes, I'd say we're definitely not going to have $3.1 million in the bank. We might have $1 million off the top of my head. Yeah, we're definitely not going to have that much in the bank. And part of that does come back to some of those debtors that are sitting there. If they were to pay us the money that we're expending, then I still don't think we'll get to 3.1. There's not that much outstanding, but we could definitely get closer to that if those debts are still outstanding. Then obviously that will reduce the cash we have had.
Right. Oh, well, I think we all appreciate that cash is king. So
yeah.
Yeah,
it's inherently hard to predict as well.
Yes.
Then it's just depends. It's not just the debtor side; it's the creditor side as well. So we generally pay those due creditors in July. So it depends on the people of that as well.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Councillor Prendergast.
Through you, Your Worship. Brendan, could you please talk me through on page 216?
Yes.
And the liabilities, the development of financial contributions paid in advance.
Yep.
So they're a liability to us until such time as they come mature because of the development.
Yes, so this is money that has been paid. So we've received the cash. Well, no, we've raised the invoice, so we may not have actually received the cash yet. Yes, so until we actually do the project that relates to, then the money sits there because there is potential if we never did the project that we should really be refunding the money to the people. So that's why it says there is a liability until such time it's used. When it's used, it then gets transferred from a liability to income in our income revenue expenses statement, so that the contributions line in that page before 2 pages before, that is the money that were actually used from those development contributions or financial contributions.
Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Bishop. Brendan, you answered my first question earlier on about the other debtors or the others. I just wanted to know what it encompassed. Yeah, you've explained that well. The other thing was, is there any indication as the reasons for the water volume drop of 8%? Is it to
In
do
terms
with
of the income?
drought? Yeah, the income, or water conservation of some sort. I don't know whether you look into that sort of thing, but
Yeah, so for the rurals, definitely, because part of what gets reported to the rural schemes is around consumption. There have been some substantial drops in a couple of those rural schemes. One of those was due to a faulty meter that was actually reading high previously, that has now been replaced. There was on one of our small schemes, Ranganui scheme, and that was about we had to refund about $20,000 of income to that person because they'd been overcharged because their meter was pretty high. And so the other schemes, consumption's dropped. Now, admittedly, we haven't done, Amy, who does the invoicing, is currently in the process of taking all the readings that have just been done for the May billings for the rural schemes. So we may find that obviously it's been quite a dry summer. We may find that consumption has shot back up again for May. Yeah. Until we actually process those, we won't know. But when I do the May report, they will hopefully be in there. If not, I will accrue them in. And then that should maybe change that.
is that quite a common problem? Have you struck much of this before with meter misreadings and stuff like that? Is it?
You do potentially get meters that stop working. It's, as I understand it, it's more rare for a meter to be reading high. Usually they'll be under reading what's going through them, from what the engineering staff have told me. I would obviously not say it's uncommon, but it's not unheard of. Obviously, we've just had it. No, usually you find that they're actually under reading.
Do you find that there is a problem, like a faulty broken meter? Do you base the charges off previous consumption more than an average of previous consumption, or
yeah, so usually it'll be an average of probably the last 3 readings, I believe. Okay. Which for town is obviously 9 months worth, but for the rurals you're probably talking a year and a half because they do 6 monthly billing.
Oh, excellent, thank you.
I think the other two, just around those rural schemes, is that a lot of those schemes have 2 or 3 like large consumers, and if their usage changes or their habits changes, has significant impact on the scheme.
But they can certainly account for 8% just through that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Brendan, in the case of that high reading, do you go back and you look at obviously where that comes to the attention of a particular individual? I'm sure it does. Yeah. Do they get recompensed for that?
Yes, so in this case they did. Yeah, we did refund them. I'm not too sure. I wasn't involved in actually the calculations, so I'm not too sure how that was worked out. But I think they could kind of tell when it seemed to start overreading based on history of readings, and so they're able to go back from that and then work out how much back to reimburse them.
Yeah, we and that's a situation that wasn't that particular consumer on Ranganui used 90% of the water on the scheme, so with a number of meters on that block as well. So I mean it's always hard to tell in terms of the total consumption where it should be.
Thank you. No further questions, councillors. We have the recommendation that the Ōtorohanga District Council receive the report titled Financial Report for the month ending 30th of April 2025, document number 821265 from Brendan O'Callaghan, Finance Manager. I'd like to move that. Second, councillor Hughes. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thanks, Brendan. Still looking good.
Yeah.
Right, we'll move on to councillor updates. The Kiwi House agenda item 245 will be following lunch. So we'll go, as I said, the councillor updates, and we'll start with a drum roll. Councillor Johnson.
No drum roll required. There isn't much to report. But just from memory, I did go to the
the Waipa Rural Water Scheme meeting. But I think that's been about it, so.
We have to keep you busy, councillor Johnson, but thank you. Councillor Prendergast.
Thank you, your worship. So I attended the Te Korowai celebration on 29th of April. The 13th of May is the usual workshop. And the 26th yesterday was the kororo, which was a bit of a last minute scramble with Annette being away, but it was very well worthwhile. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Tamaki.
Kia ora, workshops, had a conversation with Tene Hene Henui, not about our conversation around housing, but kind of did, in terms of partnerships for housing, looking at, had a hui with some external builders around securing a building hub, well, not a hub, but around fixing some of our kaumātua homes in and around the district that are really desolate and cold and falling down. And it's just around, so some of the support networks like Maru Trust and stuff, they can't even insulate because the homes are so in need of repair. So I'm looking at doing that, and in particular for whānau who actually own the homes, who are living in the homes, so that will be some. Had a Ōtorohanga ora hui around distributing some pūtea out to Māori initiative kaupapa that are happening. So that was cool. Had a hui about the boat ramp with the owners, some movement there around them forming a ahu whenua trust around the whenua. And then had an education hui with our 27 schools, and currently I'm looking after 13 of those schools in our area around engaging a better framework to engage our Māori families and our Māori students in kura. So that's me.
Awesome. Councillor Willison.
Kia ora. Well done, our busy councillors. I can report I was at least involved in 2 council matters, participated in our order grant, and I was pleased to see that there was money given to some worthy projects. Also saw a little door there that one of the projects I've been working on for years is might get a foot in the door. So thank you, Nikki. Also privy to part of we trying to get all the stakeholders together for and with regard to the seawall at not just Makatu Marae, but along the whole front of Kawhiamona, where during that big storm we had, Tangaroa decided to see what's under the seawall. So, and so, and my other role as a kaumata on our paipai, unfortunately, Tāroa and Kawhi have been hit really, really badly this year to 2025 with funeral. So if I'm not at something, it's probably because I'm sitting there. Kia ora, everybody.
Thank you, councillor. And on that note, while we're going on the table, can I just acknowledge the passing of Nan Owen? I consider the massive contribution she's made to the Ōtorohanga community over time. So, yeah, thank you, Nan. Over to you, councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Bishop. No, I've been pretty quiet last month. Made the council at Kororo last night. It was, I think our Ōtorohanga community board meeting was cancelled back in early May because nobody showed up. So that's just one of those circumstances.
Thanks, councillor Hughes. Councillor Jeffries.
Well, thanks, Your Worship. Yeah, Ross and Sandra have been keeping us pretty busy out our way just recently with concept plan meetings. So on the 1st of May, we met with charter boat operators and fitness trail members. And I'd like to talk just very briefly about the charter boat ones afterwards. On the 2nd of May, we went to the Kawhia School youth engagement, and that was really good fun. The kids were just lovely. And I was very impressed with the control that the principal has over her pupils. That was followed by a meeting with the Kawhia Museum members, and they raised some issues around their thoughts on the concept plan. And then we had a Better Places Together workshop afterwards. On the 3rd of May, which we had a concept plan open day for the public, which was reasonably well attended, I understand. And there were quite a lot of post-it notes taken away from that. On the 7th of May, we had a public meeting in the hall with logging and truck operators. And that was, again, a very positive meeting. And just for your information, if you don't already know, there are actually 3 logging operations going on out of the coast at the moment. And there's an average of 27 logging trucks going out of Kāwhia on a daily basis. And they start quite often at 3 o'clock in the morning. So there's a lot of wood being taken out over State Highway 31. On the 8th of May, we had our Kāwhia Community Board meeting. On the 9th of May, I attended very briefly the Ōtorohanga Real Water Supply meeting by Zoom. And then on the 12th of May, I've had a discussion with Terry Johnson about security cameras out at Kāwhia. And there's some further discussion to be held around that at the community board meeting coming up. And then on the 13th of May, we had a workshop and a briefing day here. So that's me. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, councillors. Right, I'll now pass over to Tanya for the resolution register.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we are on page 241. And the first one, which has been on there for a while, is the refuse and recycling contract. But you heard Jared talk about that earlier. So we are definitely underway there, and we're recommending that that now be removed from the register. The next one is around, so C331, sorry, is the draft Ōtorohanga Reserve Strategy Management Plan. We're recommending that stays on the agenda until the strategy and management plan are brought back to you in June. C334 is the local water dam well communications and engagement plans, and we recommended that this resolution remained on the register until the consultation period is closed and the hearing is held, which is today. So that one will come off as well. I don't know if we're recommending that that one comes off. It'll be next time that we recommend it comes off. Okay. C361 is the Rewarewa Schoolhouse, and we have advised the Historical Society of the Council's offer, and we recommend this stays on there until the museum comes back to us to confirm whether they'll take up that offer or not, 31st of July. C362 is around the annual plan and the confirmation of workshop direction. We recommend that stays on the resolutions register until we've adopted the annual plan, looking to do that in June. And C363 is around the draft development financial contributions policy. And we recommend that stays on the register until after the June 2025 meeting. It's out for consultation still at the moment. Yep, yep. I thought it must be near its closing date, so I checked. C364 is the Waikato Regional Airport Limited interim report. We're recommending that resolution is removed from the register. C365 is around the Māori engagement framework, and the framework's now in place, and you adopted the implementation plan today, so we're recommending that that be removed from the register. And then the CoLab C366 CoLab interim report statement of intent, we're recommending that that be removed from the register too.
Awesome, thanks Tanya, good progress. Unless there's any reason otherwise, we have staff recommendation that Ōtorohanga District Council confirm the removal of resolutions C287, 364, 365 and 366 from the register. I'd like to move that. Second, Councillor Johnson, all in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. And right on this moment, I think, yes. Thank you for that clear guidance. On that note, I'd like to adjourn the meeting until 1 p.m. Thank you. Awesome. Welcome back, everybody. I'd like to reconvene the meeting. I know that the Kiwi House have got the post-lunch time slot, but being as exciting as it is, no one's going to fall asleep during this presentation. So I'd like to welcome Richard and Kim. Over to you two. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Yeah, I just
Sorry.
yeah, just by way of an introduction, obviously been some changes at the Kiwi House over the last sort of 6 months. So Kim, who all of you here will know, is taken over as chair of the trust, and Richard Spittle is I guess taken over as interim manager for Joe, who left in April. So this report today is just their quarterly report to the end of March, just in line with the conditions of the loan agreement. So I'm basically just going to hand over to Richard just to take you through that report, and then council, I'm sure councillors will have some questions afterwards. So
awesome, thanks, Graham.
Thanks, Graham. Appreciate that introduction. Yeah, afternoon, everyone. Yeah, just by way of introduction, I have met a few councillors over lunch, but yeah, my name's Richard Spittle. So my background's 25 years banking, a bank called ASB, through the Waikato. Actually started in the King Country and then took on some more regional roles, etc. And then latterly, I've been leading a company called Animal Breeding Services, which went through some changes, and that's actually created an opportunity through my network to pick up some contracting, of which this opportunity presented itself, and have been working with Kim on that since about Easter. My role's 20 hours a week as an interim GM, and as part of that, pretty much been mostly focused on ensuring the numbers are accurate and our budgeting's correct. The staff are unclear on their expectations and what we have to do to continue to ensure the Kiwi House provides a really good visitor experience. From a numbers perspective, the report presented is to the end of March. It's really sort of a break-even result with one exception, and that's the specified donations are under budget. That budget was identified at 65,000. In saying that, we do have a couple of opportunities Kim and I are working on, and we're hopeful we can get close to that budgeted number by the end of the financial year. So we feel that that's going to enable us to continue to reinvest in the park and the development perspective. The last sort of grant funding that we received, which is the final 200,000 from the IRG, has all been allocated. We've recosted to complete our ANIC, which is the Animal Nutrition and Enrichment Centre, and we're very confident we're bang on budget for that to complete that. Hopeful from a timing of contractors, but potentially looking for an opening of that facility in July. So we're on track in regards to that. Confirmed grants do come through from the charitable trust, which they're locked in from a financial point of view. And the bigger picture that I'm sort of assisting Kim and the trust of the board as well is maybe coming up with a more broader funding grant strategy on how we can continue to develop the facility, just to to sort of build on the experiences and try and create give it that world-class feel that I'm sure it's capable of over time. From a cash flow point of view, we do, it's a seasonal business with visitor numbers. We do require some cash flow support in regards to the next coming months. We have approached BNZ. They've been open to an application, and they've confirmed that they will provide us with seasonal funding facilities for the next period of time for 12 months, which is great. So that gives us some comfort. It's just an administration point of view. Kim and I need to work through that application, but we're very confident that will all be in place by the middle of June or by the June 20th, which is when our cash becomes negative from a cash flow perspective. So we're pretty comfortable that from a liquidity point of view, we're good for the next 12 months seasonally. We have prepared the coming budget. The cash flows enclosed, obviously, in the papers. We've done more P&L perspective. That's all to be presented to the board next month for approval, and then we'll be signed off. visitor numbers have been above last year's result in April. I know Graham made mention in his report. So March last year, FIFA World Cup, Easter as well, was a bump in numbers. This year, April, school holidays and Easter has reversed the flow for us. So we're sort of there or thereabouts for the full year. We set ourselves a target of 55,000. I'm not 100% sure we'll hit that, but I'm pretty sure we're going to match last year's visitors numbers at around 50,000. So that's an overview of the report and just confirming that Kim is current chair.
Any questions, anybody?
Just if I can just add to Richard's comments just around the just to make council aware the overdraft facility that Kiwi House has had applied for with the BNZ. That I guess is I guess would be conditional up to a certain period of time. You know, obviously when council's loan kicks in, which is 1 July next year, then that would have to be reviewed. There is potential, and this would require a further report back to council for council to guarantee that overdraft, and that may potentially attract a better overdraft rate with the BNZ, but it will be subject to council approval. So just bringing that to council.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, like just looking at that closing balance, obviously the draft increases pretty quickly and drops off even quicker than what obviously projected drop off is quicker. No surprises in there, Richard, at all?
No, no surprises that I've picked up on, to be honest.
Sorry, just one question then. The trading forecast for March 26 actually says 25 at the top of the cash flow, that's right. Why the big jump up in March there? Sorry, on page 240 at the top of the cash flow.
You won't do the same page.
Oh, I did. Sorry. Sorry, the cash flow anyway.
Yeah.
If we go along to near the end, you've got February, March, April, May 26. And then you go from 138 and come up to 169 and back down to 121.
So that would probably be back in the Easter.
Okay.
So going back to it goes back to Easter and that sort of busier numbers wise. So we've just factored in our sort of volume of visitors with a slight increase across the board. So it's just an element of timing.
Thank you. Councillor Prendergast.
Oh, that's really answered my question too. But I just wanted to comment that it's very exciting that you're getting the completion of that. It's the first stage of it.
It's called Zone 4, which is the annex. So that's the sort of the kitchen facilities where they're preparing the food. And yeah, so that's very nice facility. And I'm not sure, you don't get to see too much of where the staff currently prepare their food for all the animals. It's they're really looking forward to getting into a new facility. Yeah.
So will that give you an opportunity to really advertise yourselves? I know it's winter time, but you'll then go into the summer with something really, really good to share.
Yeah, absolutely, Kathy. The annex is really the heart of the whole park, because as Richard has said, that's where all the animal food gets prepared, and it's also where the enrichment activities get prepared, because whilst we breed to release, while the animals are in our care, we have to make sure that they are stimulated and still getting experiences that they would have in the wild. So the enrichment centre is a really big part of the keeper's role as well. And the great thing about that new annex building is it's got picture windows along two sides. So visitors to the park, as part of their normal ticketing experience, will get to walk along there and see exactly what's going on. The keepers will be mic'd up, so they can talk to any visitors outside. So that's just, another part of how we can expose people to conservation, but do it in a way that they're inspired by it, as opposed to, kind of banging them over the head with messages. So yeah, we are really excited, but it's nothing compared to the keepers, because yeah, they work in a pretty dire place at the moment. So yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We've had quite a focus just of late in regards to website content and pushing website and socials. We've actually had a lift in online bookings through that process, which is exciting. And then we've also been part of New Zealand 100% Pure is doing a new campaign launch, of which we're part of it. It's currently embargoed, but that's coming out in, I think, from mid-June. So that'd be quite exciting if we can start to leverage off that as well in regards to that sort of marketing and tourism campaign. So there's a few things bubbling around that are quite exciting for us going forward.
Yeah, we actually, one of our newest staff members is our new marketing manager, and he's doing some exciting things with all the socials that we don't quite know how he does it, but some of our latest videos are receiving up to 1 million views. So yeah, he's really excited about where he's going with that, and yeah, so are we. So we're hoping to build on a lot more things that we've got bubbling away just in the very recent past that we've been able to look into.
I come with, obviously as a new chair and with having Richard on board and a fair bit of strategizing going forward, what are your priorities now, and where do you see them in 2 or 3 months' time?
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Max. So the immediate priority for me, with Richard on board and with the help of Robert Ingham, who is our business consultant now, and obviously CA, and Tim Jones, it's been a massive focus to get numbers right. So we know exactly where we're going. It's a big part of it, and we're really confident now that we know where we're going with that. It's been great having Graham on board as well, because obviously that's his skill set, and he promises us all sorts of stuff. I'm joking. I'm watching.
I need to fix this, man.
We I'm joking, of course. We have, we've got really good heart around our board table, and Graham certainly feeds into that in a really positive way. So we're really grateful to have him. So the next little bit of a step, Max, is we're looking into doing some more strategic planning, and having a really big think about what is our why. What is our why? And that will be happening in the next couple of months. And beyond that, we have got some business strategies, some new strategies we're looking at. Because the funding market is tight, has been tight. The philanthropic market is pretty tight as well. So we're sort of looking at potentially some new business models. So yeah, this will be happening at a high level. Yes, so no, it's exciting. Yes, we're in the middle of advertising for our new GM. We'd like to keep Richard around for a bit longer, but yeah, I think he's got things he's going to go and do soon. So, but having Richard's experience on board at the moment, particularly for me as a new chair in this particular entity, has been really valuable. And what we've also seen is his ability from his previous experiences to connect with our staff and our management staff in particular, and help build them and look at plans for the future going forward for them. It's actually really exciting to see. And there's a really good buzz amongst the staff as well, even though, we have lost our absolutely valued previous GM, which we're really sad about. But yeah, we hope she's going to come back in a little role somewhere below the line, because she's got way too much knowledge to let her escape fully. Yeah, so yeah. Overall, I think there's some really good strategic stuff going on for the Kiwi House, and I think it's the right time. And I think we've got some good support around our table, and other people we can draw in as well. For example, sorry, we get a few emails from the Kiwi House now. Maybe didn't be so picture, but yeah, I'm confident that the team and yeah, I can only see a really good way forward. Potentially that's so vital for us. And then potentially, yeah, I appreciate the chance to ask questions.
You can flip us up to the others, with council changing its logo. There's nothing to do with, give respect for the Kiwi House. We're not changing the district. We're not changing the district logo, everybody. Is this purely internal with the council? Okay, sorry, just a bit of a plug there. Councillor Johnson.
Well, I wasn't going to talk about that at all, but I was just going to, what I was going to say was just in terms of, potential, I mean, we've got Graham sitting with you, and obviously the council has loaned money to them, but what things going forward can you see that the council can do to be helping the Kiwi House, or potential things? Well, we want to get more people through the door. How do we do that?
100%. Okay, great. I guess it's just advertising, and we're actually thinking of running a locals campaign over the next 3 months. Because generally that's our quiet time. It's sort of, I think there's probably most of this community that probably hasn't been there, gosh, in the last 20 years. Yeah, potentially. So that's our immediate campaign. So we can bump our numbers up over the winter. So feel free to advertise on all your media. That would be a great place to come and bring your family. That would be really good. And I guess business wise, once we are more sure of where we're exactly going, we'll communicate obviously with Graham and just see if we can fits into perhaps something a little bit different. But yeah, don't believe you will.
Yes, Councillor Jeffries and Councillor Tomlin.
Thanks, your worship. Yeah, I'm just interested in how you're attracting and actually retaining the staff that you need to carry out, if you like, your planning going forward. Are you quite comfortable that you've got the right people in the right place and you've got enough staff to see this through?
Yeah.
I mean, I certainly share your comments about Jo. Was very sorry to see her go, because her passion for this whole thing was just one of the driving forces, wasn't it? So, but anyway, I was just curious as to whether you're confident that you've got the right staff and the right mix of staff to actually carry this out. That's all.
Yeah, thanks for that, Kat. As far as Jo, I was actually serious. We're not letting her go too far. Yeah, so her passion and her knowledge is still going to be there with us, just not in that particular role. So that's sort of something that a lot of entities have asked about. We just sort of, yeah. She's just taken some time out for herself and her fun, which is great. She's given a 10 really solid years to us. We look forward to welcoming her back at some point. It's right to her. As far as other staff go, I sort of always look in mind when we have change, it gives us opportunity. And particularly with Richard's skill set on board at the moment, he's doing a lot of strategic work with our staff. And I can only say that I see them excited. They are being, I guess, questioned and asked for more, and for what input. That's how we see the new model rolling out, and we're really seeing some good lift from that, and some real buy-in. I mean, they're always amazing because of the work they do. They're just a really special kind of person that works down there. But just to give them those other opportunities for them personally, and then obviously across the business is great. And it coming online after a long delay will honestly be such a change in a positive way for our staff, because at the moment where they work, we're expecting them to work is pretty dire, but we will be, I have it on authority, people sort of facility wise moving on to space, people to invest in the country, so that will actually absolutely be a factor. I guess a little bit like the medical centre, like we actually can, compared to the rest of the country, not too bad, yeah, staff and initiatives and things, and I feel we can look after our staff in that manner. We will keep our staff and be able to grow that. We also have a bit of a shift, I guess, and that we want to grow our own staff of young people from this community. And that's when we're looking for new staff, and it's something really exciting.
Right, because I think the important issue really is that unless you've got the buy-in from all of your staff, that this ain't going to happen. So I guess it's just a matter of instilling that sort of, you know.
Yeah, we certainly our staff is our biggest asset.
Yep.
We are making a strategic effort to really recognise that at board level and look after them, give them opportunities for growth themselves. Yeah, and to be, you know, really proud of what they say, because they can find. We're doing a little refurbishment in some other areas in the park, and Richard and I met with all the managers, and they're great people. They work there.
Yeah.
They know what they do. Yeah, but just sort of those type of, I guess, you know, for people opportunities. Yeah.
No, thank you.
Also, Tamaki, then Wilson.
Correct. No, mine's not a question, or mine's just probably more thank yous for continuing to drive this asset that we have in our community. So our kura, so the wharekura o Maniapoto have been doing bird watching, or they've been doing conservation stuff all out of Piriora, and we've been able to get us a regular time slot at the Kiwi House for our kids. And when we think of generations coming to work there from grassroots, these are some of our kids that are in our community from a Māori perspective, looking through a lens at those taonga. So it's been really good. We had our first one there the other day. We've got another one coming this coming week. And Tyler has been awesome with them. So they're creating little videos that we hope we can put up on our website to support the push out against. So we can let the world know what we've got here in Ōtorohanga. So just a little bit of a mihi, but also just thank yous for looking after a taonga that is so dear to our community when we think about our kiwi. And I think, you know, we at times forget how precious they are. You know, they're very, you know, not to know, and we don't see them, but we must always remember that they are some of our founding pillars here in Ōtorohanga, and we need to remember that a little bit more in this. Yes. So just thank yous for continuing to drive this drive. It's a big drive.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just not sure whether you've entertained this thought, but is there a possibility of local farms working with Kiwi House? And when I say that, I'm thinking down the lines of birds retiring, finding a place for them to retire to, or looking for new animals to bring into the enclosures. Yeah, all sorts. Just thinking out loud.
It's certainly being talked about around that, definitely. And there's sort of also conversations around, from my observations, that the Kiwi House has done an outstanding job of actually breeding lots of kiwis and giving them to other people and other locations, and actually not really looking after in-house. And so that's probably a conversation I had with the wildlife manager up front, is like, well, actually, what can we do? And I know out further out on the coast and out west, there's conversations with farmers around creating safe farms, and going there's farming families going through Kiwi accreditation, learning about that to ultimately create big corridors of space where Kiwi can be released. And I think when you're at that point, and then you will literally be breeding and releasing and supporting it 100% locally rather than sort of everywhere else. So that's certainly part of the thinking, and then that becomes part of the broader purpose and why, because then we can have conversations with funders and partners around that whole concept and what we want to do, and make it a bigger sort of project where you know, it becomes quite exciting.
Awesome. Thanks, Richard. Thanks, Kim. Yeah, look, I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes over the coming months with you on board. Thank you. And Kim with you in the chair role now. So onwards and upwards and see those deficits be less than what they're predicted, and let's see the income be more. So and make for pretty pictures. We get our money back and everybody's happy.
Yeah, no worries.
Awesome. So thank you very much. We do have a staff recommendation here that Ōtorohanga District Council received the Ōtorohanga Kiwi House Progress Report for 31 March 2025, document number 821633. With Councillor Johnson, second with Councillor Willison, all in favour? Yes. Good. Thank you.
Yeah, kia ora. Can we just say, we really appreciate the support from you guys, and that's not just the financial support, it's the support from people saying, hey, we're going to help push out and try and get your numbers up and that sort of thing. Yeah, and you know, if you tell two people, they tell two people, etc. Tyler is our new marketing guy. Amazing. So yeah, any opportunities that you see out there, you think, oh, maybe we might be interested, feel free, you know where we are. Thank you very much.
Right, councillors, we're going to go into a public excluded section of the meetings. So I'd like to move the down to public excluded. Second, Councillor Tamaki, all in favour. And when the big red light goes out,